Nakom Nikmat Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu gets a last commandment before he passes away, which is to take revenge. So it's no surprise that this week the Jewish people, we took some nice revenge right in Beirut, right in Hashem. Hashem will give a koach to our chayalim, Baruch Hashem. But it's nothing is random. It's beautiful to see how this week is the parasha of revenge, and we saw it happen live before our eyes. Now, obviously, when everybody's following the news, everybody wants to know what's going on, what's going to happen next, but it's clear that no journalist has the answers to that. We spoke last week a little bit about prophecies. I got a little bit on the head about that. They said, speak about the parasha, but regardless, I will say one thing, that although people in the world don't know in which direction things are going, the world is not ready for another world war. Let's put it like that. Because when we talk about statistics, World War I, World War II, if we right now go into World War III, the world will not look the same. That's clear with the nuclear powers that we have, with the way things are set up. Things are in a very, very, very tough place. But the way the Pasuk says it is that that Masiach will come be'erif ayn. What is be'erif ayn? Blink of an eye. Which means that we're not supposed to be ready for it. It's supposed to happen in a moment. And we have a Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin. The Gemara says, there's a pasuk, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Rami, Ktiv be'ita ve'ketiv achishena. The pasuk in Yeshaya, the prophet, says that Mashiach can come in one of two ways. Or be'ita, which means by the deadline when it needs to come, or achishena, which means that Hashem will bring it earlier. So the Gemara says, how do you reconcile this? Is it coming on time? Is it going to come at the deadline? Is it going to come earlier? Says the Gemara, zachu achishena lo zachu be'ita. Right, so it all depends, says the Gemara. If the Jewish people are lucky and they have the merits and they do things the right way, so things can be beautiful, things can be smooth, and we'll be able to feel the great love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for Am Yisrael. On the other side of the equation, things could also be a catastrophe. We know that we have too many sources about Milchemet Gog uMagog, the final war. We know that the Gaon Vilna speaks about the world being destroyed in 12 minutes. Right? So when he wrote this, people thought he was crazy. How could you destroy the world in 12 minutes? 350 years ago, no one understood what he was talking about. Even now, we don't have technology to do such a thing. But it's clearer as we go forward. And obviously, when we think about this stuff, when we look into this stuff, we have to just remind ourselves that a person that believes in this Gemara that we just bought, he has 3 out of the 13 principles that the Rambam writes that are the Ikareh HaEmunah. Right? Every Jew has to believe in 13 things to be considered a believer. So just this one Gemara that we bought, that Mashiach is going to come, and that we control how he's going to come, the second you believe in that Gemara, then by default, you have 3 out of the 13. So what are the 3 that we have? The first one that we'll speak of is number 10, which is Hashgacha. Right? Many people believe in a God that created the world, but they don't think that the God that created the world is interfering in the world. One of the major principles of Judaism is this concept of Hashgacha. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh would teach that even if you see right now a leaf falling off a tree onto a worm, that was Hashgacha. Hashem didn't want that worm to have suffering from the sun, who knows what. But the point is that everything is B'Hashgacha. That's the ABCs of our Emunah, number 10 on the list. And which is, by the way, one of the reasons that I like to open up the shurim with current events, because there's so many journalists and newscasters out there that when they speak, they give their interpretation from their perspective. They don't bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they don't put godliness into the world. And the Rambam writes that when bad things happen, or when things happen in general, and people decide to look at it from a perspective of what we call kfira, apikolsiut, they decide to look at it from a perspective of atheism, then they're actually taking Hashem out of the world. Because we, in our perspective, have the ability at every moment to either bring Hashem into the world or take him out of the world. What is this based on? The extent that we look for him, the extent that we see him. We spoke about that we're in a door. Rabbi Nachman Breslov says, hastara shebetoch hastara. Right? We said 2 levels of concealment. And our job as Jews is to play hide and go seek, to go and find Hashem. When we see something happen, we have to see where is the Hashgacha. And that's principle number 10. Number 11, schar ve'onesh, the Rambam brings, which is reward and punishment. The fact that we have the ability to tap into the system and to change the way things are going to play out. A person that doesn't believe in that, the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim says that he is considered a kofir. A person does not believe that he has free choice. It's one of the major principles that we have as Jews. And lastly is number 12. The belief that the world will not stay the way it is. We all have to believe, Bechol Yom She'yavo, that Mashiach will come and there will be a change in the world. And again, the Rambam writes in Hilchot Melachim that a person does not believe in this. He's again does not have emunah in Hashem Yitbarach and not in the Torah either. Why? The pasuk says, "Veshav Adonai Elohecha et shivutecha v'yachamecha veshav v'kibtzecha mikol ha'amim." The pasuk in Dvarim, end of Sefer Dvarim, says that God is going to bring all of us back. Veshav Hashem Elokecha shivutecha. And the Gemara learns, because the word is shav, not veyashiv, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself went out to Galut. Meaning when the Jewish people left Eretz Yisrael, when we're in the situation that we're in right now, it wasn't that God stayed where he was in Eretz Yisrael. I mean, God is everywhere, but his highest level of magnitude is Eretz Yisrael. He himself was Goleh. Right? That's what we have about a week and a half left to until Tisha B'Av, right? This day that we have to. People sometimes they say, I fast only on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is an important fast. If you're looking to take a second fast upon yourself, definitely Tisha B'Av is up there. It's one of the most important fasts of the year. The Gemara in Ta'anit says that Kol hamitabel al Yerushalayim zocheh lirot b'simchata. Any person that mourns over Yerushalayim, he'll be lucky enough to see it be rebuilt in the third Beit HaMikdash. So we have these 3 weeks. We know the general halachot. I'll just quickly say, obviously, no music, no buying new clothing. Then we have the 9 days where we don't eat meat. And weddings also during those 9 days. Obviously, I mean, no one's over here, I don't think, is planning to get married in the next 2 weeks. And then we have the fast of Tisha B'Av. So like I said, I'm hoping that every single person in this room is planning to fast on that day. It's an important day. And the Gemara says that if you fast and you mourn on these times, then you can expect Hashem to give you a part of the Geulah. When he decides to redeem the world and bring the third Beit HaMikdash, you'll have a part in it. So that's the pasuk. Now, what's a little bit interesting is when Moshe Rabbeinu gets the commandment to go and avenge the Jewish people, Hashem tells him, Nikom Nikmat Yisrael. Go and take revenge for what happened to your brothers. 24,000 people died. Go take revenge. But when Moshe Rabbeinu goes and tells the Jewish nation, he tells them, Nikom Nikmat Hashem. One small variation. He says, go and take revenge for what they did, how they disgraced the name of Hashem. So Rashi says that when a person messes with a Jew, he messes with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why the pasuk switches. It says, Nikom Nikmat Hashem, Nikom Nikmat Yisrael. There's no such thing as someone harming a Jew and not messing with the creator of the world. We know the pasuk says, Banim atem leHashem Elokechem. Right? We are all children to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Beni Bechori Yisrael. It's a very powerful thing. We sometimes take it for granted. But if you think about the concept, just today I was sitting with my son, 6 years old. He's in a camp over here. I asked him, who do you sit with? I just want to know one thing. Who are your friends? I know you're out of town. Who are your friends? I want to know who are the people that are being nice to him. Why? Because that's what a father wants to know. He wants to know, is somebody messing with my son? Are people acting properly to my son? That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to know. Are we acting properly with each other? The people of the world, right now, we said that there's 2 types of wars going on, an external war and an internal war. The external war is between us and the nations of the world. But within us, there is that same exact war, that same split going on, where everybody is, again, having to figure out where exactly he wants to be. Now, when the pasuk says, Banim atem leHashem Elokechem, the Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin brings a machloket. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, if we're considered kids to HaKadosh Baruch Hu even when we sin. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, if you're doing what Hashem wants of you, you're considered Hashem's son. But if you're going against Hashem's will, it doesn't work that way. You can't come and say, I'm Hashem's son when you're doing against His will. Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes says, Ben kach u ben kach, hem banai. Hashem says, no matter what, a Jew will always be my son. Now, usually, halakha is not like Rabbi Meir. Why not? Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes was very, very deep. Nobody understood him. He was on such a high level that there's a concept that achar rabim lehatot, which means that the halakha goes according to the majority opinion. So Rabbi Meir was a huge rabbi, and anything you would ask him, he'd give you reasons that it's pure, reasons that it's impure. Nobody understood him. So halakha couldn't be like him. Why? Because people didn't understand, and the majority of people didn't agree with him. But, says the Rashba, that over here halakha will be like him. Why? Because he knows what goes on b'shamayim. He can tell you when HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at us like his children. He says, I sign off, says Rabbi Meir, sign off that no matter what a Jew is doing, no matter where he's going to be, he's considered a ben lamakom. And sadly, I'm just going to use the opportunity to speak, but sadly, many times we treat our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a very, very distant manner. Right? I remember when I first started becoming more religious, I was in yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, and I spoke to a very big rabbi. Some of you guys probably heard of him, Rav Meir Eliyahu. And I told him, I said, Rabbi, let me ask you a question. These guys over here are learning. I understand learning is important. What else is important? What else is important to, if you want to really grow and connect to Hashem? He said, you know what else is important? He told me himself. He said, I would go to sleep every night in a conversation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because that's the point. And I'm emphasizing this because, like I was telling you guys earlier, when I sit with my son and I'm telling him, how was your day? And he's like, he doesn't want to talk too much, so it hurts. It hurts the father. Because you see, the son has different things to do. But the biggest thing you can do is to end your day, says Rabbi Nachman, with just clear your heart with Hashem. And that's a very, very important point. The Ramchal Mesilat Yesharim writes that, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Ramchal, but one of the biggest Jewish thinkers and philosophers. He wrote many books. When he wrote his books, they burnt his books because they didn't understand where is this guy coming up with all this new information. Nowadays, his books are probably the most famous books that we have. Mesilat Yesharim, Derech Hashem, Da'at Vunot, very powerful philosophical books. And he says, I swear to you, that's what he says in his book, that this is the only way to go. The only way to go up is to have what we call a cheshbon nefesh, that ability to introspect in the end of your day. He says the Yetzer Hara will do everything to get you out of that. You sit at the end of the day, instead of thinking about what happened, what can I do next, the person sits on his phone, seeing what's going on Instagram, what's going on this, what's going on. He's not giving himself time to disconnect and to basically just focus on what he wants from his life and from himself. And in this week's parasha, we get a big lesson regarding that, because again, the tragedy that happened last week, 24,000 people dying, was the most complicated tragedy that we saw in the 40 years we were in the desert. Even Bechet HaEgel, the golden calf, only 3,000 people died. So you're talking about 8 times more people died in from this whole story with the non-Jewish woman, Balak, Bilam, that we spoke about last week. So what happens in this week's parasha? If when you guys go through, you'll realize there's a concept called nedarim. What does nedarim mean? Oaths, vows. And the head of the nations, they get a commandment to deal with this, this concept of nedarim. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat speaks about very bad things that happen to people that say things and don't do them. And we know that one of the sources of blessing is being a person that has a powerful word. How do we know this? The pasuk we say in Tfilah, Baruch Omer ve'oseh. Blessed is the one who says and does. But from the other side of things, we see that the Pirkei Avot says that Avraham Avinu was Omer me'at ve'oseh harbe. He would say a little bit and do a lot, and they praise that attribute. So why are you saying Baruch Omer ve'oseh? Why say Baruch Oseh? Blessed is the one who does. But you know why? Because the most powerful and blessed person is the person who has a word. A person who tells you something and he's there. I said it, I shook on it, I'm there. And you know what the Torah wants of us? To have a word to who? To ourselves. When you sit in the end of the day and you say, wait a second, something is bothering me inside. Right? Everybody subconsciously has these things that he feels like, I wish I would have done it better. I would have woke up earlier. My day would have been smoother. I feel like I was too aggressive today. I feel like I wasn't respecting my wife as much. I didn't give my kids enough attention. You sit with yourself. Okay, what's the game plan? What are you going to do better tomorrow that's going to make you succeed? Something small. The Rebbe Miluvavitch would say, if you fall in something, a person that sins, for the next 3 days, let him take upon himself to do something in that field. So let's say, for instance, a person didn't wake up to put on tefillin one day, or didn't wake up for shul. Everyone knows where he's holding. So he says, for the next 3 days, take upon yourself something that you can do. Say it, I'm going to do for the next 3 days. I take upon myself, I'm going to do A, B, C. And that way you take that momentum to a positive direction. The Baal Shem Tov, not everybody agrees on this, but the Baal Shem Tov we know is one of the greatest rabbis that we had in the last a few generations. And he says that even when a person falls, the purpose of him falling was for him to make that comeback. Sheva yipol tzaddik vekam. What does that pasuk mean? That even a person who's a tzaddik, he'll fall 7 times. And we know the number 7 is not necessarily 7. It could be an infinite amount of times. But the point is, as long as he'll come, he's considered a tzaddik. As long as he knows how to get up. Right? We know this also. Sometimes we bring some ideas from the boxing world. We know this also. Anyone that's good at boxing, it's because he has a good defense. Right? He has a good defense. He knows how to hold his grounds. He can't get knocked out. He moves around. He's slick. He's sly. And if he gets hit, what does he do? A few seconds later, he's back on his feet like nothing happened. And that's what makes a person great, knowing how to get up fast. Even this is a lesson that we see in the parasha, because again, the Masiach Chochmah writes that again 24,000 people died. Where did this whole story start? Because of alcohol, wine. The non-Jewish woman, they told them, come into the stores while you shop, while you pick. We'll give you guys a bit of wine, drink, relax. And then the sin came about. By the way, they use this strategy until today. I remember when I went to get my suit for my wedding, first thing they did, Eretz Yisrael, L'chaim, come, L'chaim, Mazal Tov, then they sell you whatever they want to sell you. But over there, they weren't trying to sell merchandise. They were trying to kill, and that's what they ended up doing. So it's an insane thing, but many people died because of that. And that's why, he says the Masiach Chochmah, in this week's parasha, we speak about Nedarim. Because Nedarim, what is Nedarim? God is not going to tell you that you can't drink alcohol, right? There's certain times that it's a mitzvah to drink alcohol. Purim, you have to drink. Shabbat, Yom Tov. Shabbat, you don't have to drink, but you have to do Kiddush. You can do it on grape juice. But on Chag, on the Chagim, for instance, there's a mitzvah, Samachta bechagecha, en simcha basar v'yain. You got to eat meat, you got to drink wine, you got to drink, you got to enjoy. So God's not going to tell you not to drink. But He's going to expect you to be strong enough to see that if something is causing you damage, you cut it off. Cut it off. And that's what Nedarim was all about. Nedarim was about saying, look, I realize that this thing is no good for me. So I take upon myself, for instance, in the weekdays, I'm not drinking. Right? And we know that nowadays people have very weak personalities. It's not anybody's fault. It's a generation that we live in. They made us this way. They wanted us to be this way so they could easily influence us. But the Torah is trying to give us a backbone. This whole idea of Nedarim, of being like, sitting with yourself, doing this introspection, making a decision, saying, tomorrow I'm waking up in this and this time. It makes you a person of bracha. Baruch Omer ve'oseh. You become a person that you have blessing in your life because you say and you do. So the rabbis say nowadays it's not recommended to do Nedarim. Why? Because people, they say they're going to do stuff and they don't do it. But I think the proper approach is to start small. So start doing small things. Wake up 5 minutes earlier. Take upon yourself that then tomorrow, no matter what, you're going to put your tefillin, even if it means you're going to have to miss work. Everybody knows where he's standing, but you got to strengthen your word. When you have a strong word, people respect you. Now, like we said, there's the bit of the contradiction. Is it Nikmat Hashem or is it Nikmat Yisrael? So we said according to Rashi, it's the same thing, only because we are Hashem's children, and anyone that messes with us messes with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Masiach Chochmah says that Hashem was focused on the Jewish people. Hashem said, I want to take revenge for what they did to the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I want to take revenge for what they did to Hashem. That father and son relationship is a beautiful point that we see in Moshe Rabbeinu's perspective. And he says that based on this, we can understand the Gemara. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah says that Hashem wants to clean us up here in this world. For somebody that He loves, Kol asher Hashem yoav yochiach. If Hashem loves you, He'll clean you up here. He won't let you walk around with stains. The Gemara right over there in Avodah Zarah Daf Daled speaks about this, that one of the rabbis, they asked him, they said to him, why is it that the Jews suffer the most? What's up with that? Like you guys say you're the chosen people, why you suffer the most? And he didn't know what to answer him. He started beating him. He told him, well, you're walking around, you're saying you're a rabbi, you can't answer a basic question until they got the other rabbi, and they told him, what's his story? He said, not everybody knows everything. This guy knows this, he knows that. But he said, you give me an answer then. And he told him this exact point. He says that if you give someone a loan, if you have 2 friends, this is what the Gemara says, if you give 2 friends, you give each of them a loan. So the one that you love, you'll sit on him. You'll tell him, you'll be like, give me the money, pay me back, $10, $20, $100, $1,000. You won't let it build up. But someone that you don't care about, you'll wait and let the interest accumulate, and then destroy him in a second. And that's what the Gemara says that Hashem does to the nations of the world. He lets them succeed and succeed and succeed. And once once they're already, Hashem says, I'm sick of this, He destroys them. But Hashem swore to us, that He'll never destroy us. And when we go off, He'll just give us guidance. And that's one of the signs. Many times people, when they start to become more religious, they say, wait, I started becoming religious, I started getting wiped out. I was living my life before. But the reason is very simple. Because subconsciously, we all have a decision. We all make a decision how we want Hashem to deal with us. One person, I spoke to a couple recently, and they had a little bit of a debate regarding luxuries, material. So I asked the woman, I said, if God tells you that He'll give you a Bentley tomorrow, but it's going to come 100% out of your bank account from the next world, what are you going to say? She said, I'll take the Bentley. I was shocked, but you know what? Some people think that way. And you know what? To be totally honest, many of us live that way. Because you decide how Hashem will work with you. In your mind, subconsciously, you don't have to say it openly. You tell Hashem, look, some people say this, I don't know, next world, not next world, right now I'm here. I know that this world is temporary. I know that even if I wanted to, I couldn't live past 120. I know there's a certain point where the body gets weak and enjoyments are no longer enjoyments, but I don't care. I want to enjoy now and here. Whatever happens there, happens there. You don't have to say this, but the fact that you think that in your mind, right? The Gemara in Masechet Makot says, "B'derech she'adam rotze lalechet, ba molichim oto." And the Ben Ish Chai says, what is ba molichim oto? It's the angels. We spoke about this, that the angels create your reality based on the things that you want and decide subconsciously. So once you start connecting more and start learning more Torah and becoming more religious, what happens? All of a sudden your perspective changes. All of a sudden you start thinking, wait a second, maybe there is a next world. Wait a second, maybe I'm chasing nothing in this world. Because Chazal tell us that Te'ava, we know that Yaakov Avinu, he fought with the Malach of Esav, with the angel of Esav, which is the Satan himself, and he asked him, what's your name? The Pasuk says. And he told him, what do you want my name for? He didn't answer him. So Rav Zamir Cohen, my rabbi, he says that, you know what was going on over there? The name in Hebrew is the essence. The name of something is the essence. He said, what's your essence? How do you get people to do such foolish and stupid things? How do you get people to sin, chase after things that in the end they're going to regret? How many men have ruined their lives, ruined their marriages because of their desire for a woman? They can't control themselves. How many people have spent 30 years of their lives chasing money to wake up when they're 50 years old to say, wait a second, what about my family? What about starting something that's substantial? What about the next generation? All of a sudden, the guy's 50 years old. He says, I got to find a good. 40 years old, I got to find a woman. It's not the way of the Torah. The Gemara says in Masechet Kiddushin, a person that's smart gets married as soon as he can. Because the Yetzer Hara doesn't leave you. The second you let him attach himself to you, a person, we know the famous Zohar, it says that a person that was with a non-Jewish woman, for instance, that she's tied to him like a dog. This is not a joke. This is serious stuff. Our sources are crystal clear. When we spoke last week about the prophecies and about all these different points, it's not just because, it's nice to see how things are coming about, but statistically speaking, it's ridiculous when you look at everything that went on, that's going on, and you say, wait a second, this stuff is recorded, this stuff is written, this stuff is happening before our eyes. You'd have to be oblivious to disregard that. But what is it coming to tell us? What's the message to us? Not that we don't have to be thinking right now about the end of the world. We don't have to be. That's not what Hashem wants us to be thinking about. What we do have to be thinking about is Hashem wants us to do two things. Ivdu et Hashem besimcha. Serve Him, be happy. Serve Him, be happy. And we'll just discuss one point because we have a few minutes left regarding one of the wars that happened in this week's parasha. People sometimes like the in-depth Kabbalistic things. So there's brought down that Bil'am, right, we spoke about him 2 weeks ago, he basically came to curse the Jews, didn't succeed, he got chucked, he didn't get his paycheck, but what did he do? He told them, he said, make them sin, and 24,000 people died. So he said, I got to get my paycheck. I gave you guys, I didn't curse them, but I gave you guys good advice. 24,000 heads are because of my advice. I want my money. Came back and ended up getting killed. So we see a real life example of a person that loves money, is a greedy person, ends up getting killed. And the Zohar speaks about his death crazy. I'll share with you guys the Rav Ben Yaakov Shmueli. He brings it down as following. He says that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't go and fight Midian because Moshe Rabbeinu lived 40 years of his life in Midian. The Gemara says, "Bo sheshatita minemav al tizrok bo even." If you drank water from a certain well, don't throw a rock into there. Right? So Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Listen, 40 years of my life I lived there. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to go against them." But he sent Pinchas. He sent elef lamate. The Midrash Tanchuma says that there was 1,000 soldiers sent and 1,000 people that were meant to pray for them. Right? That was one of our first wars where we get the formula for each soldier. There's got to be one. Yes, crystal clear. Elef lamate in this week's parasha. And they get sent out to war. Now, Bilam, like we said 2 weeks ago, he was a sorcerer. He was able to do crazy and insane things that if I say it to you guys now, you'd be like, sounds insane. But we know that back in those times, people had much more power. As the power in the Jewish world went down, the Kedusha, so too did the power go down Batumah. So Bilam was able to float in the air. And Pinchas looks around and he says to himself, who can do this? Who over here from our people could go and float in the air? And one of the Zohar brings down that one person said he was from Shevet Dan. Don't worry, I got this. He was able to get up in the air. Bilam put on a second layer of magic, says the Zohar, and he was able to disappear until Pinchas prayed to get him to be revealed. And this guy Tziliah pulled him, chucked him down to the earth. Pinchas came to stab him, and while he was stabbing him, he wasn't dying. Bilam wasn't dying until he took a special sword with 2 snakes on it, and he stabbed him, and there was snakes and scorpions coming out of Bilam's body. So we're talking about a very lethal death, a very, very disgusting individual. But what we learn over here, I think, is that our enemies, right? Our enemies, they stand against us, and sometimes they have some power. Sometimes they're more powerful than we are, in a certain sense. But when we have the strength of the people that are praying, people that are learning as well together, right? We owe a lot to our soldiers. We owe a lot to the people that are out there. But we have to understand that basic premise of Judaism, ABCs of Kabbalah, is that we as Jews have the ability to tap in to the spiritual reality and to give energy to our brothers, to our sisters. And that's the same reason why you'll realize that many times when a person starts to become more connected, people around him, his family members, also start to become connected. It's not because he convinced them. He tries to, but it usually doesn't work. The real reason is because he started lifting himself up. He became more powerful, and those that are directly around him or her, they automatically make that transition as well. Because again, I don't like to use the word energy, but ABC of Judaism is the concept of neshama. That we're Jewish people, we have a soul, we have power, and one more point that we'll speak about. So the pasuk says, "Veikshu elav ve'emru gderot tzon nivne lemuknenu po ve'arim letapenu." So basically, in the end of the parasha, we have 2 parashah this week. The end of the first parasha, the 2.5 tribes decide that they don't want to enter Eretz Yisrael. They say, we're good, we have nice big land across the Jordan River. Let us stay over here. You guys go in. We're a total of 10 tribes. If you take a Menashe Ephraim, 13. And 2.5 decide they want to stay outside of Eretz Yisrael. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu gets frustrated with them. He says, we've been traveling 40 years to get to this land. Eretz Chalav, Zavat, Udvash. And now you guys are saying you don't want to come into the land. Let's say I'll agree to you that you guys don't have to enter. But there's another problem. You're going to scare your brothers. We have to go to war. We have 31 kings to fight once we enter. And I'm not going to be there. Moshe Rabbeinu died before he entered Eretz Yisrael. So if you guys, you're talking about 2.5 tribes, it's a substantial part of the Jewish nation. So they said, what do they say? Yikshu elav v'yamru, gderot tzon nivne lemeknenu po ve'arim letapenu. Don't worry. He said, Moshe Rabbeinu, give us a little bit of time. We'll take care of our livestock. We'll take care of our belongings. We'll take care of our children and our families, and then we'll go to war with you. We'll come back. And they did that. 14 years later, after they destroyed all the enemies, they split the land, then they came back. Moshe Rabbeinu said, fine, no problem, but I have one rebuke for you. You guys said, first, Gderot tzon nivne lemiknenu ve'arim letapenu. Your mind was thinking about your assets. You said, first, let's take care of our assets. Let's make sure that we have our properties, the career, everything is running smooth, and then we'll deal with our families. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu said that's not the Jewish way. A Jewish person has to understand that you cannot say, oh, my money, my career, my this, your family, the husband that you are, the father that you are. We have 3 responsibilities, right? Baruch Hashem, I'll just share that in our community, we have a beautiful community in California, Silicon Valley. I have a lot of great students that are tremendously successful. Some of them, Baruch Hashem, made it to become millionaires, self-made. And they have beautiful balance, beautiful balance. We start the day, 6:25 shacharit, we all pray together. And then we do a class. They all go out. They're with their families in the morning. They go to work. They come back in the evening for a 30-minute class. We have our schedules. But you know what? We're all based on one thing, balance. Judaism is balance. So you have your career, it's important. But it's not the top priority. You got to take one orange, which is your career. One orange is your family. One orange is your connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If any of these 3 are missing, the table is not going to stand. You got to have minimally 3 legs. These are minimal a person has to have in his life. Certain hours that he's dealing with his spirituality, certain hours that he's investing in his family, and certain hours for his career.
We see this week's parasha, my brother spoke about it in short. He said that Hashem came to Moshe Rabbeinu, and what does he tell him? He tells him, I want you to go and avenge the Jewish nation from the Midianim. What happened? The Midianim caused him to sin. Hashem says, now I want you to go out to war. Now what's interesting, how does Hashem finish the pasuk? How does he finish his commandment to Moshe Rabbeinu? And as soon as you finish this war, what's going to happen? You're going to be gathered to your people. What does it mean to be gathered to your people? It means that you're going to pass away. Now the interesting part is, imagine if God came down and spoke to any one of us right over here. Imagine if right now, God willing, right? Hashem came down and spoke to you now, he told you, listen, you, right now I'm going to give you one last job. You're going to finish this and then you're going to the next world. What are you going to do? Let's say he tells you, when you finish eating this wrap over here, that's it, it's over. Who here is going to eat the wrap? Who's going to be the first thing to do to eat the wrap? It's probably going to get rotten and it's going to get decomposed before he eats it. Let me take a few more minutes, I'll come back in an hour, procrastinate. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, go fight this war and then you're going to die. What does Moshe Rabbeinu do the first thing? He goes right away. Without procrastinating, without extending it, nothing. Right away he goes. And we look at this and we say to ourselves, obviously we spoke in the past about the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu is, but we have to understand that beyond Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe Rabbeinu illustrates to us what it is to be a great person. Right before he dies, he showed us one of the most beautiful midot, one of the most beautiful character traits a person can have. What is that midah? We know that every morning, a Jewish person, he says in the morning something called Birkot HaShachar, which means the morning blessings. Now every single one of them is detailed out for the most part in Masechet Brachot, except for 3 of them. 3 of them are actually brought down in a different Gemara in Menachot. Rabbi Meir says from the pasuk, Al tikra ma ela me'ah. What does Hashem want from you? Don't cry. Don't say what Hashem wants from you. Ela Hashem wants 100 from you. What is 100? 100 brachot. Rabbi Meir says he decrees right away that every person every single day has to say 3 blessings. And the men, they probably know it. You open a siddur right now. At the end of the Pokei Achirim, Matir Asurim, we have over there Shelo Asani Goy, that he didn't make me a Gentile. He did, the meaning to say in other words, that he made me a Jew. He didn't make me a servant. And then for the men, he didn't make me a woman. For that, he didn't make me a woman. Now that's 3 blessings that we have to say every single day. And the women, they say something different. What do the women say? She'asani kiretzonu. That he made me according to his will. Now the commentaries say, why does a man say that he didn't make me a woman? Sabud Aham, which is actually the source of the woman's blessing, he says, and he explains that the reason why a man says it is because a woman is exempt from a mitzvah called a positive mitzvah she'azman gerama, a mitzvah that is caused by time. A woman is exempt, and therefore a man is saying, "Thank you for not making me a woman that I'm obligated in these mitzvot." Now, there's another question you have to ask yourself on this. We say, "Thank you for not making me a Gentile. Thank you for not making me a goy." Now, the Farshim explain, what kind of goy you have to have in mind when you're saying that? When you're saying, "Thank you Hashem, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Shelo Asani Goy," that it didn't make me a non-Jew. Who are you supposed to have in mind? You're supposed to have in mind the bum you saw walking down Times Square the other day asking for change? You're supposed to have in mind the greatest goy you ever met. The highest, what does it mean? Imagine, I think it yourself. Think to yourself right now rationally, on face level, you say to yourself, "Thank you for making me a Jew." Why? If you look out into the world, who has an easier life? The Jews are the goyim. The non-Jews are the goyim. You go out over there Saturday, you're in your hat, you're in your suit, you're walking on Shabbat, 90 degrees outside, you're sweating, you're sweating all over the place. You're begging for already the mazgan. You're ready to get into the place. You're sweating all over the place. Till you cool down, and you see them in the backyard with the mangal, with the barbecue, in the pool, and they're listening to music. You're walking by, you're already. In Shabbat, you say this stuff. Maybe I was just hang out over here for a little bit. And you pass by, say this stuff. And then I got into your mind, Hashem is Sani Goy. I mean, Shiloh Sani Goy. They're having the time of their life, they're enjoying. Now you look over there, they go on vacation. They don't have to worry about kosher food. You know what it's like to go on vacation, have to worry about kosher food now? Oh, you have to make a whole itinerary before you go. You're calling every Chabad and every place in the whole entire world. Hello, you guys open? And nine times out of 10 don't even answer the phone. The Chabad doesn't answer the phone. And when they do, no, I'm sorry, we're all booked up. He goes, you see him over there, you go to Venice, you see him sitting over there in the gondola, eating a pizza. He doesn't have to worry when I'm going to get my next meal. He goes, you're sitting over there with crackers and a cream cheese sandwich that you're walking around with the whole day. That's your blessing that's not going to get right throughout the day. Say, well, Baruch Hashem, this cream cheese sandwich. And then you find one grape in the back. Oh, until I get to the next supermarket. What are we saying over here? Saying, Hashem, thank you for not making me a goy. Why? And I think the answer is clear. And I think one answer answers it all. When a man says, thank you for not making a woman, and we should know, the Pinyanei Halacha says, there's two explanations on why the woman says that Hashem made me according to His will. He says, a woman says, they shouldn't say they didn't make me into a man. Right? The man says, you didn't make me into a woman. So the woman should say, you didn't make me into a man. The woman says that He made me in His will. The Pinyanei Halacha brings down two explanations. The first explanation is, they thank God, even though we're not obligated in these mitzvot that are time bound. We thank you anyways because you know everything you do is for the best. That's the first answer. That comes down to the two. That's what in Shulchan Aruch over there. The second answer, the Pinyanei Halacha brings down, he says, because the woman is created shalem. The woman is created whole. She's created on a higher level. Her nature is to be more refined and therefore she has less things to work on. She's on a higher level than a man. And we actually see a proof to this, that when a boy is born, the mother has 40 days of impurity, whereas opposed to the girl, she's 80. Why is it double the time? Because when holiness leaves, it leaves a void. And that void, depending on how great the holiness was, the void is greater. We see a woman has such a little bit higher level of kedusha. And the woman's job, and the Pinyanei Halacha continues, he says, you know why it seems like on face value, which one is better? That the man is saying, he didn't make me a woman. Is because the woman's greatness is not something visible. It's something internal. Rabbi Israeli spoke about a few weeks ago, a beautiful concept. That the Gemara says everything that's hidden from the eye has blessing. And the woman, when she dresses modestly, when she dresses with humility, that's when she keeps her blessing inside. She's already whole, she's already complete, she already has holiness. All she has to do is hide it from the world. Hide it. You know the pig, my brother spoke about it last week, what does he do? He has the hoofs, and what does he do? All day he shows people, look, I'm kosher, I'm kosher. But what's really going inside? The Torah says you need to have two things. You need to have split hooves and chew your cud. You need to have two simanim, two signs. External and internal. It's not enough just to have the external. You need to also have the internal. You need to also have the part of you that's inside of you. The woman, today unfortunately, not our woman, the woman over here, and the woman who comes to our shiurim, not like this. But today we see society, they put into the woman's mind, you know what your value is? The more you show, the more you tell people, look at me, that's the more valuable you are. And it's completely the opposite. The more you hide, the more value you keep. Because everything that's hidden from the eye, that's where the value stays. That's the woman's job. To keep what she's already been given. She's already made great. However, the man's job is to understand and embrace his responsibility. We think as Jewish people, you know why we say thank you, not making me going? Because you have to understand that responsibility is a good thing. We're thanking Hashem, thank you for giving us the responsibility. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to grow. You know why? Because after 120, when we get to the next world, there's two levels of Gan Eden. There's two levels of heaven. One of them is for the Jews and one of them is for the non-Jews. The Gan Eden for the Jews is on a much higher level because we work 10 times harder than theirs. So what happens now? We see in this world, we say, look at them, they're enjoying. And then they get to the next world, and they walking around on Saturday and they're smelling our barbecue and they're other way around. Not just saying, it's all time. It's too late now. And that's what it is. Moshe Rabbeinu was great because he embraced responsibility. He knew when to take responsibility. Hashem tells him, go, he goes. There was a story, there was a guy who was a big negotiator. Basically, he was a negotiator for hire. Everybody knew this guy. You bring him into the negotiation room for sales, he's closing the deal the best deal you possibly can get. So his cousin, who wanted to get into the business, young guy, 20-year-old, he sees that his his cousin is making crazy money. People are hiring him every time he's going 50,000, 60,000. He tells him, look, I have to learn your trick. You have to teach me how to do this. What are your tactics? How are you negotiating? What are you telling them? He says, you know what? Come. You can follow me around. Shimush, come. You tag along, you'll see firsthand. He goes to meet with a client. The client tells him, look, we're about to go into a sale. Between us, our price, 1.2. That's what we want to sell it for. If we can get 1.5, we'll be very happy. The guy says, okay, no problem. They all go into the room. They meet with the other thing. The guy's sitting over there. He tells everybody else, don't say anything. I'm gonna be the one who's talking. They get into the room with other people. The guy looks at them, just sits there quietly. A few minutes pass. The other people, realizing that no one's saying anything, say, look, we're willing to pay 1.5. The guy sits there quiet, doesn't say anything. A few minutes pass. The guy says, okay, 1.7. The guy sits there. Okay, 2, but that's our final offer. Okay, I'll go sign the paper. His cousin says, wow, it's crazy. So now his cousin goes and gets a little small job for somebody else. And he goes into the meeting and he sits there with the guys and they're sitting over there and he's sitting over there and they're coming up and just quiet. The other people look at him and they're also quiet. 10 minutes pass, say, you know what, it's not for us, thank you, and they leave. So he calls his cousin and says, I don't understand. You did it, it worked. I did it, it didn't work. He says, now you learned your second lesson. What's that? He says, there's a time to be silent, there's a time not to be silent. The time for action, the time not for inaction. There's time where the best thing you can do is be silent. Not take the responsibility, step back. The Mishnah Pirkei Avot says, "B'makom sheyesh ish al tiyeh ish." In the place with another person, don't be that person. But in the place where there is no other person, try your best to be that person. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu took this and made it a part of his life. Whenever there's a time for me to step up to the plate, I step up to the plate. He took the responsibility. And that's what makes a Jewish person great. That's what makes us great. Is that we don't shy away from responsibility. We don't say, I'm looking for the easy way out. I'm looking for the easiest type of path. No. A Jew's greatness is talui, is contingent on how much he's willing to take upon himself responsibility. He doesn't shy away from responsibility. He doesn't run away from it. I'll finish with this story. There was a guy who was working in a marketing company, and his boss comes to me and tells him, says, look, I need you to draft up a PowerPoint for one of the meetings. We have a sales meeting we have to go to. We're selling to a client. I want you to draft up a PowerPoint and then we'll take care of it. So he was one of the marketing techs. He put together a PowerPoint. And the day of the sale comes, the owner comes down to the floor. He tells him, look, our sales rep, he's not here today. We need someone to step in. He goes to the guy who created the PowerPoint, says, look, you know the information better than anybody. You go and you're going to sell it. I was like, I'm going to sell it? What do you want from me? Thinking to himself in his head, I'm the computer guy. I'm the computer tech. What do you want from me? But he doesn't say anything. The boss goes. He waits a few minutes. He goes into the office. He tells him, look, I want to thank you for giving me the chance to step up to the plate. I'll gladly take it. And he goes in and he does the thing. At the end of the meeting, they close the deal. He calls the guy into his office. He tells him, look, I want to promote you because I want to give you the job as a sales rep. He says, why? He says, not because you made the sale. The sale I wasn't worried about it. It's because before you made the sale, you walked into my office, and when I told you about it, instead of telling me, you told me, thank you for giving me the opportunity to step up to the plate. This is a person who succeeds. This is a person who's a leader. A person who says, you know what, there's responsibility, I'll take it. That's what the Torah says. What does it start with? The vows. When a person says something, when you make a vow with your mouth, when you say, I'm going to do something, go and do it. Be responsible. Don't just say, so many people, how they say things, God bless. I already said this before in the past. If every single person who told me I'm coming tonight would be here, we would have Madison Square Garden filled out. BH, I'm coming. I told you the story of the guy who shook my hand. Actually, this is twice now. It's twice now. I said previously, one time I was sitting with a person, and a friend tells me, there's no way you're going to get him to come. There's no way you're going to get him to come. I see him in person one time. We start talking 30 minutes, back, forward. He tells me, you know what? I'm coming. Shakes my hand, but not like a fake shake. He gave me a real handshake. I said, that's it. I called my friend and said, he's coming. He looks at me and goes, yeah, right. We're going to see if he's going to come. Came the night. Everyone's sitting over here. I'm looking around. The guy doesn't show up. And I'm telling you now, this was what I said last time was a year ago. This is not 2.5 years. I haven't seen him since. Since then, I haven't seen him. He figured out that he ran away from me. I said the story. Another person came to me, also shook my hand, and told me, yeah, I'm coming. Now I think the guy shaking my hand, he's coming for sure. I'm looking at the Quran, I still don't see him. Today's not here. I don't know why the guy went. You have to be a person who has a milah. You have a word. You say something, hold yourself accountable, hold yourself responsible. Take the responsibility, take the action. That's what made Moshe Rabbeinu great. He didn't run away from these things. He didn't shy away from these things. He says, you know what, Hashem, you want me to take the responsibility, I'll take it. Even if it means it's going to mean my end. Okay, where am I going? Okay, I have to go. What does make a difference? You want me to go? I'm going. I'll take the responsibility. As a Jew, you have to understand, you know what makes you great? You know why you get to say every single day, Baruch Hashem, Shelo Sani Goy, it didn't make me a Goy? Because you have the responsibilities. Because you have to do these things, and that's what makes you that much greater. And when you're going to get up after 120, when you're going to see what's going to be the next world, you're going to say, thank you so much that I had that opportunity. And that's our job.